Okay, so now we move on to adding our community section. If we look at our Photoshop design, we can see straight away that we can split the row into 3 sections. So we'll need to add a size class of 4, as 4 goes into 12 3 times. So we can see in the first section we have our logo, some header text and some paragraph text, and in our other 2 sections we have some images. So firstly we need to grab this logo here, as our original logo is white and this one is green. So we choose our selector tool and click on the logo. Then we alt click on the eye to remove all our other layers. Then we simply trim the canvas with image trim and then click OK. So we need to save for web and make sure that we select the PNG here. Then we click on save. Now just make sure we're in the image folder and we can save this as logo-green.png. Then if we just go to the undo in our history panel, we can grab our other 2 images. So we do what we normally do for our first image. So we alt click, then we go trim, OK. Then we can save this off as a JPEG, and we will call this photo 1. Then we just go back, and with the next one we select, alt click, trim, OK. Then we'll save this again as a JPEG and we'll call this photo 2. Nice and simple. Just make sure that you're in the images folder each time you do that as well. And now what we can do is actually go on and add our section in. So we add over to our index file, then we add in our comments to keep our section separate. So now we need to add in our section tag and our ID. So this one will be simply called community. And then we close the section off. Then as normal we add in our container div class. Then we close that off. If we just switch back to our PSD file, we can concentrate on this first section here that houses our logo and our text. So we have 3 sections with 4 columns each, so we know that we want to have a size class of 4 on the medium and large devices. So it's best to have them stacked again on the smaller devices. So we could have the col SM12 and col SXS12, but as they automatically stack on the smaller devices, there's no need and it keeps our code nice and tidy. So if we switch back to our index file, we can add in our row class. And then just close that off. Then we need to add in our size class. So we add the div class equals. So we have columns on medium and up devices set to 4. But if you wanted, say, 3 columns on the small devices, then feel free to add the col SM4, for example, just so you can see how it's used and you can get used to adding other size classes. But we'll continue by just closing off this size div. So first we need to add in our logo. So we can do this with the img tag. Then we can give this a class of image responsive, just like our screenshot, so make sure that the image resizes accordingly depending on what device the user is on. It might not be needed because the image is actually quite small, but it is best to add it in anyway, just in case. Then we add our source. So we save this into our image folder and we called it logo-green.png. Now under this we have our header text, so we can add this into a h1 tag, then we add in our text of our community, then we just close off that h1 tag. So if we jump over to our PSD file again, we can see a paragraph of text, so we can actually copy this generic Latin text and paste it into some p tags in our index file. So we add our p tag in, then we simply paste our text. and then we just close off the tag. Then if we just save that off and refresh our page just to check things, we can see that it's populated the first set of columns like we wanted it to. Now on our design, all the elements are centered, so we can go back to our code and add in the align equals center to the row class, because all of our divs will be centered in this section. So if we just save that off and refresh the page, we can see that looks a lot better already. Obviously there is a bit of styling needed, but we'll sort that out shortly. But now we just need to add in our other two images along the same row. So now we need to add another div in, so we add another size class, which is the same as the first. So we add our size class of colMD4. Then we just close off the div. Now we have another image added in here, so we have the image tag. Then we add our responsive class. And then again we add a source, which is in our image folder. And then if you remembered, we called this photo1.jpg. Then we just close off our tag. So if we save and refresh, we can see our images in the center of the screen as it's slotted into the next 4 columns along the row. So now we need to add in our final image. So if we head back to our index file, all we actually need to do is copy this image div above, as it will be the same, and just paste that underneath. Just make sure that you stay within the same row. Then all we need to do is change the 1 to a 2 within the image name. And then if we save that off and refresh our page, we can see our sections all lined up nicely in the same row. You may notice that there are 3 lines of text on our PSD, but only 2 in here. So what we can do is just copy some of this text and paste it in again, just so it visually matches our design. Then again, if we just save and refresh, we can see that that all looks a lot better. Now we just need to shrink the page down. We can see that all the elements stack okay. However, we do have the images sitting on top of each other, and there's no gap to separate them off. So you should actually be able to sort that out with some media queries yourself. So try and have a go with that on your own. But if not, then obviously don't worry, because we'll cover the styles within the next lecture.